Hello and welcome to today's tutorial on how to practice a new piece. The piece I have here with me today is Beethoven's Piano Sonata, Opus 22 in B flat major, and I'm going to be sight reading the bottom line. So I've never played this piece before, so it'll be a good demonstration of how I would go about practicing a brand new piece. So you want to choose a small section to practice. What does small mean? Well, typically one line, or if the whole line has 6 measures, maybe 3 measures at a time. And the reason why you want to do this is because you want to work in greater depth of the section rather than greater breadth. So what that means is learning a small section really well versus learning a bigger section and making not very much progress. Okay? Now, I'm going to assume that you've already looked at the key signature and scanned the music to see the notes that are affected by the key signature. So let's make that assumption. The next thing you want to do is write the counting between the staves. So in the middle part between the treble clef and the bass clef. And the reason why writing the counting is important is because it allows you to place the notes and have a better idea of how the piece goes rhythmically. So let's assume that I've done that for the last line. I'm going to count and clap first. That's the first step that you should do when you start learning the piece. Okay? So here we go. 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and okay. So that line was completely 16th notes in the right hand. In your own experience with your piece, you might need to clap it multiple times until you reach a confidence level of 90%. So you want to clap the line and the hand of that line until you get it one time at 90%. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to read the intervals between the notes. So this is going to be a little bit different from reading intervals between individual notes, because I'm going to be reading an interval between one note and then 2 notes. So how I'm going to do that is, if we look at the very first note, which is an F, I'm going to read the interval between the F and the nearest note of the pair of notes. Okay? So the A. So the interval between F to A is a 6th. So I'm going to say 6th down, and then I'm going to say a 3rd. So the interval between the pair of notes, which is F and A, is a 3rd. So I'm going to play F. I'm going to say down a 6th, then a 3rd. I'm going to say up a 6th, down a 6th, then a 3rd, up a 6th, down a 6th, then a 3rd. And now it's up a 5th to E, down a 5th, then a 3rd, down a or up a 4th, down a 4th and a 3rd, up a 3rd, down a 3rd and a 3rd, up a step, down a step and a 3rd, up a 4th, down a 4th and a 3rd. Okay? So that was the first measure only. You want to do that for the entire line in the right hand. And now the next step is to play and count out loud. The second part of that is very important. Play and count out loud. So you want to be able to hear the rhythm that you're playing. And for this step, which is playing hands separately, you can pause and stop as many times as you like, for as long as you like, as long as you play the right note with the right finger with the correct articulation. So the very first few attempts, you just want to get all those 3 components right. And you are allowed to compromise the rhythm, because in a few attempts, the rhythm will come and you'll play it more steadily. But for the first few times, you want to make sure you're playing the right notes with the right fingering with the right articulation. Okay, so you might notice that I'm going to pause while playing the right hand here because I want to get those three things correct. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to choose a tempo where I can be 90% confident about playing the notes correctly, and that tempo comes with experience and intuition. So if you're making a lot of mistakes, if you're pausing many times per measure, that means you need to slow it down. Okay? Here we go. For E and A. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1. Okay? You might need to practice just one measure at a time until you get it around 90%. Okay? So for me, I'm going to keep going, but in your own practice, before you move on to the next measure, make sure that the measure that you just did, you can play to about 90% confidence level, correctly, of course. Okay, I'm going to move on to the second measure. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 1, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Okay, so it's pretty steady. Now I'm going to try the entire line. Okay? 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay? I noticed that I made some fingering changes from the first and second attempt, so I'm going to write that in. 4 and 3 on B. Okay, now that I've played it to 90% confidence, I want to find out the tempo at which I just played that. So using the tap function of your metronome, I'm going to tap the tempo. 1 E and 2 E and 3. So the metronome is going to be in eighth notes. So my tempo is 50 in eighth notes. Okay? 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, now a question I get asked a lot is how much do you know to increase the tempo from one attempt to the next attempt? I go by a guideline of around 10% or 8 to 12%. Okay, but let's say 10 to keep it simple. So to do an easy calculation of percents, what you do is you take just the first digit, which is a 5, and you go up by 4, 5, or 6. Okay, so 10% of 50 is 5, and if you're going up by around 5, you can still go up by 4, 5, or 6. So I'm going to go up by 6. Okay, I'm going to count one measure before I start, or one beat. 4 E and A. 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. Okay? So the reason why we're incorporating all these steps, like counting first, then playing with the intervals, then playing with the counting, and counting out loud, and not moving up until you've reached a 90% confidence level, going up by around 10% each time, is because we're trying to ensure the maximum accuracy as possible. So you notice that I haven't yet made a mistake. And that is that's a good goal to try to strive to achieve, right? Is to not make any mistakes. So I would follow this until I increase it 5 times, increasing by around 10% each time. And then what you should do is write down the tempo that you reached on your tracker on the Google Sheet, and that gives you an idea of where you can work from the very next day. Okay, so I only did the right hand here. I would do the left hand and then do hands together, but that's for a separate video. I think this will give you enough information and enough of a guide for you to practice your pieces, at least hands separately, steadily. Okay? Hopefully this helps, and happy practicing.